Thank you, Bernard. Great for the invitation. Frankly, I'm very, very surprised that I was invited because I'm an outsider. I'm never an insider by choice. I never like to be on the inside, and I've never been. And I can see a lot of insiders here. I said, why not Vincent Lo? Why not Moses Chang? Why not Alan Zeman? Why not Elsie Leung? Why me? I am truly baffled. Just to show you how much of an outsider, I have never met Madame Lu Xinling. Well, I've met her, but nothing more than shake her hand and said, my name is Ronnie Chan, because she probably doesn't know who I am. And the only time I have anything to say to her is right now, but she left already. I wanted to tell her that I think she looked a lot nicer, smarter, and prettier than the photograph that was shown of her there. And if I had said that to her, that would have been the first sentence I've ever spoken to her. So I have no idea why I'm invited here, Bernard. I think your staff went cuckoo. But whatever it is, when called upon, I have no choice. I serve on the board of our Hong Kong Foundation. And so let me just present a few thoughts as a Hong Konger. I'm the first at least, non-Hong Kong government official speaking here today. And so there will be more. Lawrence, you'll be next. But so I represent in some way the average man on the street in Hong Kong. Over the last 20-some years, I've been repeatedly thinking one problem, one issue, one question. And that is, what is one country, two system? Does it work? Can it work? And how does it work? And that question has troubled me for many years, especially since 2014, when we had the streets, the yellow umbrella, and then later 2019 with the black coats, the riots. And I came to the conclusion that every one of us back in 1997 had our own imagination of what one country, two system may be. But since mankind has hardly ever seen it, nobody really knows what it ought to be like and what it can be like. And so it is a new thing to all of us according to each of our different imaginations. Moreover, one country, two systems, just like any other human system of government, must evolve over time. They cannot be static. And so whatever your imagination was 27 years ago in 1997, 26 years ago, maybe times have changed. That necessitates your review of your construct, your mental construct of what the one country, two system is. So if we were to see one country system evolving, we should not be surprised. It is a natural course of happenings, not to mention that whatever you imagine or I imagine it to be is nothing more than what you imagine and what I imagine. And so I'm glad that, in a sense, Hong Kong has been evolving in this regard. Now, obviously, there are a lot of happenings in the last 26 years that necessitated a lot of changes. And so let me first examine what have changed. If we don't know what have changed, we don't know what needs to be changed today in order to tailor to a changing world that is around us. I say there are three areas of changes. First, Hong Kong has changed. Number two, our relationship with the motherland, mainland China, has changed. And number three, and perhaps the most significantly, the world around us have changed. Hong Kong, how Hong Kong has changed? Well, we never had NSL, the National Security Law. Do you support the NSL? I have no choice but to support the NSL. I don't want the riot that was there in 2019 that was so violent. I grew up here in this town. I've never been feared on the streets of Hong Kong like in 2019, as I drove home one day, my driver refused to let me drive home. One day I snuck out and drove home, and I regretted it. So national security law is a necessity, that's all. And by the way, the Hong Kong police were so restrained. I'm so proud of them. But whatever it is, what is on the street is what is on the street. And with that, there's no choice but to have NSL. And so be it. But once you have it, Hong Kong has changed. And changed forever. You cannot turn the clock back. And the change, I only regret that we had gotten to ourselves to a position we had no choice but after NSL. That is a nuclear option. You can only use it once, and you can never use it and say that you have never used it. And so I regret that we have gotten to a point where we had to use it, but once we got to the point, we have no choice but to use it, and so be it. I'm a business guy. I'm pragmatic. I need to do business. I need to do what it takes to survive as a business enterprise. So Hong Kong has changed, and not necessarily to the worse. I don't like all the political infighting of the last 26 years. I'm very happy today that we can now finally get back to business. When was it? 2002, during the Bill Clinton and George H.W. Bush US presidential election, Clinton said something very famous. He said, "Is the economy stupid?" And people try to analyze Hong Kong and give it all kinds of explanation. I said, "It's politics, stupid." It's as simple as that. And the NSL will enable us to return to the economy. For that, I'm grateful. The second thing is that Hong Kong's relationship with the mainland of necessity has also changed. Remember the then President Jiang Zemin says? He said, "Let Hong Kong be Hong Kong, let mainland be mainland. 河水不犯井水. Let's just not invade on each other's territory." Hong Kong tried. Some people in Hong Kong, unfortunately, try that, and it cannot end well. And that's dragged the rest of us into the pit. So the relationship of Hong Kong and the mainland will have to change as well. But I, for one, do not believe for a moment that it is cast in stone what that relationship ought to be moving forward. I don't believe that Beijing wanted it to be set in stone either. As long as we respect the bottom lines, 底线, then the rest is okay. And so it is up to we, Hong Kong people, up to us, to define partly what that relationship is and work with Beijing to find out what that relationship ought to be. But that which worries me the most is the third area that have changed, and that is the world around us have changed. In particular, US-China relationship have changed. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the following. 1841, when the Brits took over Hong Kong. Hong Kong has, ever since that time until 2020, part of the international community. Initially, because Britain was a major player in the world, so Hong Kong, being a colony of Britain, was protected under that. And we were part of the world community of players. All the way, even after 1997, the rest of the world basically accepted one country, two system, and they should, because it is true, it is real, and we were okay. Until 2020, roughly, after the riots of 2019 and the NSL of 2020, the rest of the world, led by the United States, decided to yank Hong Kong out of the international community and lump it together with the rest of mainland China. Interestingly, the rest of mainland China is striving hard to be part of the international arena in almost every area of human endeavor. Yet if the number one country in the world, the United States, wants you out, it is not a fun thing to be. And so I see Hong Kong being yanked away from the international community, beginning with academic exchange, then with specific products, and then with people exchange, and then finally, perhaps, well, I should take away the word perhaps, even with capital exchange. And so in those 4 areas, Hong Kong will come under increasing pressure from the international arena. It will do well for Hong Kong to recognize the time and preserve ourselves, protect ourselves accordingly. We can only rely on 2 things. Number one, when some people hurt Hong Kong, it may end up hurting themselves even more. But no one can prevent a nation from hurting others by hurting themselves even more. And it is known to have done that over and over again. When the Russian US dollar accounts are frozen, who get hurt the most? I came to the conclusion the one who gets hurt the most, and many people increasingly agree with me, is the US dollar. And when US dollar is hurt, who get hurt the most? So these are hard geopolitical facts that Hong Kong is facing, and we will do well to recognize them and prepare ourselves accordingly. And these are not things that Hong Kong alone can handle. These are international affairs. These are areas that Hong Kong has to work closely with Beijing in order to have a hope to protect ourselves. So my last point is the following. Where is Hong Kong's economic future? I happen to believe that Hong Kong's economic future is fine. I don't know if we will thrive in the old days of growing at 7-8% per annum. I don't know about that. But if we grow at 3% per annum for the next 10, 20 years, it's not the end of the world. So I don't think that Hong Kong's economy is doomed. No, for not a moment. I just wrote in my letter to shareholders that my company has no intention to leave Hong Kong as a headquarters because we think this is still the best place for us to do business, and we have all intention to stay here, although our income will increasingly come from the mainland of China. Why not? If that's where the money is, that's where the money is. But we have no intention to leave Hong Kong. So where are the opportunities for Hong Kong? Number one, like it or not, and I've been saying this for the last 25 years, just like Hong Kong people seem to be deaf. But I think that now I may have a little bit more welcoming ears. And that is, Hong Kong's economic future must be the mainland of China. It doesn't mean that we will replace our relationship with the rest of the world. I still travel 70% of the time outside of the mainland of China. I'm still in America every month. I'm still in Europe every other month or more. In the Middle East, Southeast Asia, I'm there all the time. Because that's where the opportunities are, and that's what will serve Hong Kong well. However, if Hong Kong people does not know to connect more tightly economically with the mainland of China, then sorry, Hong Kong does not deserve to thrive. Hong Kong is privileged to be on the footstep of the mainland of China. And as Lee Kuan Yew, someone who I respect tremendously said, there's one thing here in admire Hong Kong, and that is our geography. And if we don't appreciate ourselves and take advantage of it, who is there to blame but ourselves? So like it or not, Hong Kong's future, economic future, is inextricably tied to that of mainland China while keeping relationship with the rest of the world. In the past, there were ideological barriers on the parts of many that want to keep Hong Kong economically away from the mainland of China. There were such dumb people in Hong Kong in the last 26 years, including surrounding Mr. C.H. Tung when he was the chief executive of Hong Kong. Thank God those people are now out of the window. It's time, ladies and gentlemen, that we should get back to the basics, where the money is. Somebody asked a bank robber, we're not a bank robber in Hong Kong, we're really good people here. Some people asked a bank robber in America, he said, why do you rob a bank? He said, well, that's where the money is. And he said, why do you want to go into mainland China? I said, that's where the money is. Just as long as you make it legally and properly, why not? And so I think that Hong Kong, our future, no doubt, our economic future is tied to that of the mainland China while preserving our connectivity with the rest of the world. However, the connectivity with the rest of the world may also change. For example, today, America doesn't welcome Hong Kong because they don't welcome mainland China. It's nothing, they're not against us per se, but like it or not, your peripheral damage is absolutely true. You disagree, I'll be happy to buy you lunch. I'm a business guy. Anyway, so markets have to change. Connections have to change. Even industries have to change. We have to develop new areas of expertise. We have to develop new businesses, new connections, new relationships around the world in order to keep ourselves economically vibrant. The second area, of course, is technology. Like it or not, the last 20, 30 years since Hong Kong's return to the mainland of China was the time that mainland Chinese technology took off. And Hong Kong has been left behind to a good extent. Several reasons. Some people say land is too expensive. That's true, but land price is coming down. There's no model, successful model, that's true, but they are coming. I know some of them. Our universities are very good. And finally, I think the ability for us to bring scientific research into commercialization is good. Finally, people say Hong Kong's market is small. I say, true. But why should Hong Kong be your market? Why should the world not be your market? Why should Southeast Asia not be your market? Why should mainland China not be your market? So my last advice to Hong Kong people is, don't think Hong Kong. That's a sure way to not make a lot of money. Think China, including Hong Kong, of course. Think the region, and think the world. Broaden yourself. So my last thinky little suggestion. In the 1950s and 60s when I grew up, in Hong Kong, apart from English, what language was the most revered? If you speak that language, people bow to you. What is that? 1950s and 60s. Shanghai-hua, Shanghainese. 20 years later, in the 1970s, they were replaced by the Cantonese because their children all speak Cantonese, right? But in the 1990s, I began to hear Putonghua. First in Taiwan and in South Geiwan or somewhere. And then 10 years later, it moved to North Point, it moved to Causeway Bay, and then it moved to Wan Chai. In the last 10, 15 years, it's all over the place. In fact, these guys are better educated than the average Hong Kong. They're more wealthy than the average Hong Kong. So, hey, why are you against them? Well, we're not against them. We just have a problem. Our Putonghua is not that good. So I suggest that Hong Kong people better get out of your butt and start speaking Mandarin or Putonghua for business purposes. At home, sure, Cantonese is great. If I curse you, I haven't begun with the 18th generation, I haven't started yet. That's a Cantonese. But leave it to the home for business, for academia, for schooling. I suggest that we speak Putonghua, blend with those new Hong Kongers. I don't know the number of it, it's a lot of it. as a businessman, how to maximize the return on asset is important. And we have so many Putonghua people in the last 20 years who have come to Hong Kong that are great asset to Hong Kong. Let's make sure that our return on asset is very high by taking advantage of them, blending with them, welcoming them into our society, making them part of us. Hong Kong will do well. Thank you.